We have a question from our listening audience, so we can hear that question.
Richard from Rockport wants to know, what is the composition of the liquid that is being sprayed on floating oil from those planes, and how safe is it to humans, plants, and marine life?
The dispersant, I guess. You want to take a shot at that?
I guess I could say that too.
Yeah.
I only know this from reading up on it, because when they first started using the dispersant, we were curious about it ourselves. And so, interestingly, the name of the dispersant is Corexit. Get it? And it's essentially a detergent. Unfortunately, it has about the same toxicity as the oil itself. So it basically adds to the toxic stew.
I would say that one of the dangers of the dispersant is that by breaking the oil down into these micromolecules, micro droplets that bacteria can get at, they can degrade, it also makes the oil more bioavailable. It's easier to pass across membrane. So it has a good side and a dark side. It enhances the potential for degradation of the oil, and weathering, physical as well as biological degradation, but it also increases its toxicity. My early studies with oil dispersants during my doctoral program, you could have fish in a tank, both static and flow-through systems, and you could have very low toxicity of oil to the fish, and you had a dispersant. It would increase the toxicity multifold. Now, by itself, the dispersants are often of low toxicity. These two formulas that were used, Corexit 9500 and 95.7, are generally labeled as among the milder, less toxic dispersants.
And that does bring to one of the questions, we have another question I just want to get to in a second, but for me and a number of us that have been looking at this spill, the biggest, greatest concern, and unanswered question is and we've alluded to in some of our presentations, is these plumes, the underwater plumes that are created as the oil is released. It comes off the bottom. And there's been a great deal of discussion about dispersants being used at that. No one's ever done that before. We have no experience with it. And what's the impact? Is it helping or hurting? And of course, the objective there is to break that oil up into small droplets before it reaches the surface, making it more biodegradable and accessible to microbes and weathering and that type of thing. But a number of us, again, have concerns. And these, by the way, these plumes would form with or without these dispersants. That's just as Dr. Montagna referred, it's just like a spray can coming out with methane as the propellant and the liquid is on. And there are a number of ships out to sea now looking at these plumes. They've found a number of these plumes. One that I'm aware of and talking with the research vessel about is about 82 cubic miles of whatever it is. And they don't know. They're trying to figure that out. That basically, to give you some reference, that's about half the volume of Lake Erie, twice the volume of Lake Tahoe. And this particular one was moving toward the DeSoto Canyon. So the concern, and Dr. Shirley hit it very much on the head, and that is if these things maintain their toxicity and these huge clouds moving through the water column, and there are animals, organisms up and down that column, the impacts may far exceed the very horrible ones we're seeing in the wetlands. We just won't see it. Now, we do not know much about these plumes, and that's one of the faults of one of the concerns all of them. We should have perhaps in the past done this type of work so we know better about it, but we do not. And many of us who have the concerns that this was a mistake, this is a big issue, we certainly hope we're going to be proven wrong about the nature of these plumes, and we're working on it very, very closely right now. We have a question here from
yes, thank you. My name is Brian Burke, and you science professor knows my house. The New York Times last week published 2 articles about the findings of research vessels in the Gulf, finding those large plumes to the west and the east of where the flood occurred. And these plumes are miles long, miles wide, and hundreds of feet deep. And the composition is a combination of the dispersed oil, the methane, and acid sedimented environments. It was clear it was going to affect the food chain from the very bottom, the eggs, the larvae, all the way up to the sharks that swim at the surface. And there is very little research on what these plumes are made of and what they'll bring about over a period of time.
kind of heard Brian on this kind of introduction. I think that is an excellent. To me, that's the $64,000 question, whatever it is. Just try to figure that out.
I guess I didn't answer my question.
Well, but it's worth spending some time on it because of that. And the question is, will it be around for a long time? Yes, it will, because they are obviously in the deep water. They're going to move. There'll be a further question: do they maintain themselves as a cloud, or do they slowly disperse, or what? We just don't know, and that's a serious concern. As I said, the oil would have atomized without the dispersion, just because of the physics of the situation. But what additive effect that the dispersion may have had, mixing with that, Dr. Shirley made that very eloquently just then, that the combination of the two is not good in any way. Do anyone don't have anything to add to that?
Well, I have the same concerns. Again, I've never studied dispersants and oil mixers per se exactly, but it struck me as a playbook designed for shallow water and a very small spill. And it was just, the wrong toolkit at the time. When we have a problem with the oil being dispersed naturally, why on earth do we want to disperse it even more? And now I'm getting into a little bit of editorializing off the science, but I got to tell you that I've been very disappointed that more effort wasn't placed on trying to pick it up at the surface and skim it, rather than trying to make it go away out of sight, out of mind.
Thank you.
Is this the first time you've seen a major oil spill where the oil didn't all go to the surface and into the beach? Is this the first time you've seen it?
Most oil spills, in fact, occur at the surface. Most spills are spills and they're not blowouts. And the blowouts that we have had have pretty much been in shallow water. Most of them are in transport, rupturing tanker walls.